Hello, my Nevermore Hollows psychos. This is Lafayette Faust. As always, thank you for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share with someone you think might enjoy the show. The episode you're about to hear is one of the pieces of content we offer over on our Patreon page. Here's the setup. Imagine what a late-night call-in radio show would sound like in Nevermore Hollows. A show where the host interviews the main characters to glean more of their backstories and hear a little bit more about their battles against evil. It's modeled on the old Art Bell show, and I think it helps make our Nevermore Hollows universe a bit more immersive. That radio show broadcasts at midnight from WNVR Raven Radio and is called Dead of Night with Darwin Gallows. This show drops once a month over on Patreon, along with another show called The Coroner's Report, where we read the autopsies of the monsters and cryptids that are defeated in battle around the town. We're also adding more immersive content over there that we think you might like, so if this sounds like something that interests you, we would be thankful for your support. There are 3 tiers to choose from, each giving you deeper access to the show. So, with that, I now present an episode of Dead of Night with Darwin Gallows. So sit back, turn on a light, and prepare yourself.
It looks like we have time for one more caller. Becca, you are live on RAVN. You say you saw something weird down at Winona's Waffle Hut today?
Yeah, I did. I was sitting there eating some of Winona's awesome rhubarb pie, and I saw that artist guy, Chris Goins, pull in the parking lot.
Well, that's not weird. He does love the waffles.
Yeah, he's there every day. But when he got out of his truck and started walking across the parking lot, about 20 gallons of coleslaw fell out of the sky and landed on his head.
Oh, wow. Was he hurt?
No, he seemed physically okay, but he was really mad.
Well, I'd be mad too if 20 gallons of coleslaw fell from the sky and hit me on the head.
He wasn't mad about that. He came in and said, "Must be my lucky day. Free coleslaw." And then Winona kicked him out.
That doesn't sound like Winona.
She pointed at a sign on the door and said, "No outside food or drink allowed."
Well, I guess rules are rules. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Need to read some tales from the crypt? Want a ticket to the creep show? Itching to mount a campaign against the evil troll lord in the dungeons of doom? At Romero's Comics and Games, we have all that and more. We're a store full of alternate realities. And did you know that studies show that people who read comics have tastier brains? Well, now you do. So stumble on in to Romero's. We're on Main Street, just down from Dante Inferno's Pizzeria, and bring your tasty brains with you.
Welcome back. I am Darwin Gallows. I'll be your guide through the dark of night. The phone lines will be closed during my interview with the town historian Lafayette Faust. He's agreed to come on the show and answer some of the questions we all have about our not-so-sleepy town. Lafayette, welcome to the dark of night.
Glad to be here, Darwin.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for those new to Nevermore?
Well, I've been a resident of Nevermore Hollows for a while now. I keep to myself. I have to keep to myself. And for those of you who are new to understanding what's going on in Nevermore Hollows and just happens to come across this show tonight, this town has some strange things that happen, and there are a lot of people out there that don't want me telling the stories. So I've taken it upon myself to try to get the word out. Like I said, I have to be cautious because there are some powers that be that if they knew where to find me, I would probably disappear.
That's very cryptic. What about, let's get a little bit personal. How old are you?
I will be 57 in a few weeks.
And do you have family in Nevermore?
I can't talk about that. I will say this though, because it's for the folks that have listened to what I'm trying to accomplish with putting the word out. It's no secret that I had a son, and that my son, died, and it's something that's still raw and it's hard to talk about. But I put him in jeopardy by doing what I do, and so that's the reason why I stay secluded.
So your podcast has drawn other people to this town, including myself. Do you ever worry that maybe you're putting people in danger?
Look, the world's a dangerous place, okay? It is a dangerous place no matter where you go. Nevermore Hollows is probably one of the most dangerous places in the world, but if you come here after listening to what I've been putting out, then that's on you. But the least I can do is try to prepare you so that if you're going to be here, you can't ever say that you weren't warned. Like, Chris Goins, he moved into town. He was warned by by Alyssa. She's like, look, this is not a safe place. So to get to the heart of that question, people are going to do what people are going to do. And all I can do is try to give you knowledge so that you know what you're getting into.
That's a fair answer. Is there anything that you can give us on how your son died?
So I will give you this. I was in possession of some. I came across a document that was never supposed to see the light of day, and he happened to be with me when we found it, and I was under surveillance, and there was an altercation, and we went on the run. And this is before we came to Nevermore Hollows, and we ended up in the jungles of South America. Okay, and he died at the base of one of the pyramids down there, one of the ancient pyramids, and I'll even tell you this because I'm sure that he won't mind me saying this, but Ivan Ivanovich was with us that night.
So can you tell us, where you were born?
I was born in Athens, Tennessee. Little town, looked like Mayberry, out in the middle. It's pretty much directly in between Knoxville, Tennessee, and Chattanooga, Tennessee, but very rural.
Did you ever imagine yourself being a successful podcaster?
No, not in a million years.
Is there a special woman in your life?
No. And if there was, I wouldn't tell you. That would put her in danger. I appreciate the question. I understand what you're trying to do. Because the more that people understand me and know me, if I were to give you something, it would bring credibility to what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to accomplish. But I'm not going to put any other folks that I love in jeopardy at all.
I'll respect that. Let's change gears a little bit. Do you have any hobbies other than being the historian of Nevermore Hollows?
I play guitar. Love playing guitar. It's a passion for me.
Do you have a favorite story from Nevermore Hollows?
Yes. I pick any story with the boys, Rory and Stevie. They're good kids. They are the heart of this town. They're the heart of any town. If you think about what they do, they're pure in spirit. They don't care about the fact that they're poor. So I love telling their stories, but I would have to say that my favorite story that I've been able to tell of theirs is when they first met Psycho Juju. You know, that night when they told me this story, they said, "Look, you know, we were just riding our bikes one night. There was a weird light in the carnival sounds, and we went over into the field, and the cows were acting really weird. We thought maybe it was aliens, and ended up there was this carousel this out in the middle of the field, and then this evil monkey jumped out and started talking to us and threatening us." The reason that's my favorite story is they came away from that unfazed. They were a little freaked out a little bit, but they are so pure of heart that they were like, okay, well, whatever. If this thing hates us, it's going to come after us. It's going to come after us. We'll do what we can do.
So you've met the boys in person then?
Oh, yes.
Do they know that you are Lafayette Faust?
They do.
Do you ever come out of your bunker?
Yes. But when I do, I don't look like Lafayette. There's only a few people that know what Lafayette looks like anyway. And even for those who do, I make sure that I am, I'm not like a master of disguise. I'm not, doing some kind of James Bond stuff. But, I do take precaution because I'm under surveillance. I do know that my bunker is secret. I do know that the folks who know where the bunker is, I can trust them. But beyond that small group of people, nobody else knows where it is, and I'm confident in that, and I take great pains to keep it that way.
Are you Ivan?
No. Do I sound Russian to you?
You could be faking it.
I could be. And, Ivan and I are of a similar age, maybe. Does anybody really know how old Ivan is? I mean, I describe him as a man who looks to be a fit 50, but seems much older. I will tell you this, okay? Because Ivan and I obviously have been through a lot together in the past, and there's a reason why we're both here in this town together. But and I think under the circumstances, since a lot of his recent story has been told, I can tell you Ivan is much older than he appears to be.
So when your son died, were you married at the time?
Yes.
Does she know you're still alive?
I'm not sure I should answer that. I'm afraid that if I answer that, that'll give too much, and it could put not just her in danger if she's still alive, but it could put a lot of other folks in danger.
Does any of your family know that you're alive?
No.
Why did you pick Nevermore Hollows?
Because that's where the battle is. That's where the battle is.
Is this part of the information that you came across, knowing where the battle is?
Yes. The piece of information that ultimately got my son killed is just one of many. I'd already been digging into some things, and it just started as curiosity. And I never thought that it would lead me down into such a wicked rabbit hole that would cause death and destruction. But what I know, and knowing that while there's a lot of spiritual battlefields in the world, knowing that Nevermore Hollows is right in the center of it, then, I had to come here.
I think right now would be a good time to pause for a commercial break.
Hey y'all, this is Winona, the owner of Winona's Waffle Hut. This week's special is Ravenberry Pie, baked by Angel, who's one of our very own waitresses. Angel promises that each slice will change your life. We're open 24/7 all year round, but keep in mind, the freaks rise when the sun sets, so make sure you bring your own weapon. As always, I invite you to come for the waffles and stay for the weird.
And welcome back, and thank you to our sponsors. Lafayette, I know I've pressed you for some information that you're not comfortable giving up. So let's change gears now. Let's get into the history of Nevermore Hollows. When was the town founded?
Thank you, Darwin. I appreciate that. You can tell that I'm trying to be. I want to be forthcoming as much as possible, but I also have to be guarded. So I'm eager to move into this part of the conversation, and I think it'll go a lot lighter. So the town was founded in 1607. It was founded by some folks who came over and just had that spirit that the people had back then. We're going to go to a new world. We're going to found something. We're going to try something new. Unfortunately, they just happened to land in a spot that was cursed like no other spot in the world. So it originally wasn't called Nevermore Hollows. Back then when they would make settlements, sometimes they would name it after the king or the queen of whatever, but sometimes they would name it after the prominent settler. So this was named after Fike, a man named Fike. And so it was called Fike Settlement. And not long after that, a very wealthy and powerful family came over. They were the Eldritch family, and they kind of just took over. And I think, evil is drawn to evil like good is drawn to good. And I feel that the Eldritch family, they've got a dark history over in Europe. I feel that they were literally drawn to the area of Nevermore Hollows because once they took over, their influence was massive and important, because that's when they embraced the darkness in this area. And it's no secret that the Eldritch family were Satanists, warlocks, witches, lots of dark stuff. So I think that once they heard what was happening at Fike Settlement, that they said, that's where we're going to set our base in the new world.
Fike Settlement has a really strong ring to it. I think they should have kept that.
Well, it may have a strong ring to it, but he was defeated fairly easily. And the lore is that he was completely naked the day that he died, and the Eldritch family took over the settlement. Various stories about why he was naked, nobody knows. It's just part of the lore.
How many people were originally in Fike Settlement?
There was 125. Early on, almost right off the boat, they started losing people. And it wasn't to sickness like most settlements. It wasn't to starvation like most settlements. People just started disappearing.
That tends to happen now in Dunwich Forest. Where did Dunwich Forest get its name?
Dunwich Forest it also started out as a completely different name for where it was. It adopted the Dunwich moniker after Lovecraft was writing. Lovecraft hit the scene and he was writing all his horror stories. The Eldritch family really liked that whole concept of the Dunwich horror, so they renamed the forest Dunwich Forest. But look, people go missing in mountains and forested areas all the time, all over the world. But I'll tell you this: everything good has an exact opposite that's bad. Okay? That's whether you're an occultist, you believe that. Whether you're a Buddhist, you believe that. Whether you're a Christian, you believe that. Okay? So evil will always do a mockery of what's good. Okay? So just like, in Christianity, you have the Christ, you have an Antichrist. Okay? You had an Eden and you have an anti-Eden. That's Dunwich Forest. That is the devil's Eden. That's why it is so filled with these beasts that are just, an abomination to nature and are so evil and hungry to consume innocent people.
Is there anything else other than the paranormal that people would be shocked to find out originated in Nevermore Hollows?
I'm sure there's a lot of things, but the thing that pops in my mind at the moment is the first man to ever claim that the moon landing was fake was from Nevermore Hollows.
Doesn't surprise me. His name's probably Alan. How do you get your food delivered?
What makes you think I have food delivered? I mean, if I'm going to secure myself in a bunker, I'm going to make sure that I can be self-sufficient. There's no DoorDash at Lafayette's bunker.
Pink Flamingo's trailer park. What was there before the trailer park was built?
There's a lot of folks that will tell you a lot of different things prior to the settlement in 1607, but from 1607 on, what we do know to be true is that's where all the riffraff was put. The poorest of the poor, the outcasts, the murderers, the lowest of the low, kind of like what it is today. It just evolved from, maybe an encampment to a trailer park.
That makes sense. Is Nevermore Hollows ever known for any industry?
No, nothing big like, any factories or anything like that. When the settlers came, they basically found each one of them found their role, and whether, kind of like what you normally would see, a shoemaker, a lumberjack, things like that. And if you look at how Nevermore is thriving today, it's full of just small businesses. The folks there, some folks just refuse to believe what's going on. Others might know what's going on. Some do embrace it. But what I love about it is their spirit of, hey, I'm just going to be an entrepreneur. I don't have huge aspirations. I'm here in a small town for a reason. So it's basically just your small business-minded folks.
So the original colonists, what country did they come from?
Well, they came from all over, but the core group were from what is now known as Romania, Hungary, areas like that. There was some French, but that was pretty much the makeup at the time when they came over.
Were the people that came over originally wealthy, or were they trying to start a better life?
Well, look, that's a good question. The main group of folks, the Fikes that came over, they had been fairly successful, but they were also bringing over people that maybe weren't as successful as they could have been in the old world, but they had skills. They were chosen for their specific ability to learn skills so that they could have the right people in place and start, so they needed a smith, they needed a luthier, they needed, someone. Yeah, yeah. There was a brewer. And so they brought over the folks that they needed to help successfully found the colony. So after they were able to start building up defenses, and prior to the Eldritches coming over, they started to thrive a little bit, right? And but when the Eldritches came over, they were just such a huge influence, and they were so heavy-handed and totalitarian that they just kind of took over and became the wealthiest family in the area.
Everyone enjoys spending time on the bay. What happened to the docks that used to be there?
When the Eldritches came over, they brought their specific brand of dark beliefs and dark magic and dark rituals with them. Okay? And when they landed in this very specific area that is just just where evil thrives, they conjured up something from the sea that tore down those docks, and nobody has wanted. The lore now is you don't even go to that part of the bay where the docks were. Even all these hundreds of years later, people are afraid to rebuild those docks because the belief is that if you rebuild the docks, the thing that tore them down will come back.
Not everybody has met Psycho Juju, but is there anything that you can tell us about him?
Okay, some people don't even believe he exists, but you've talked to the folks, even though some of these interviews haven't come out yet, you've talked to the people who have dealt with this evil monkey. I think he's demon-possessed, and that's how I always, it's the only thing that makes sense to me that he's demon-possessed. But this is one of the most wicked creatures ever created. His whole purpose in life is to just create destruction and to ruin people. And he does it on screwing with your minds. He doesn't just come out and kill people. He always plays with them first. Okay? So I was doing some research recently trying to figure out where he came from. And I came across an old black and white video from an 1890s carnival. And in that carnival, you could buy a ticket to see a demon monkey. Now, I don't think that is his origin. I do not. But I do think that is the same monkey. I don't know what he was doing in the meantime from then to there to now, but I think that he is that monkey.
Do you know what causes things to fall from the sky at Winona's?
Okay. Now, that's a rabbit trail I've been down a couple of times. And I've spoken with a couple of folks who are very scientific minded. Of course, they go to, there was a hurricane somewhere that picked up something, or there was a tornado that picked up something, and it just happened to drop in Winona's parking lot. Now, I'll tell you this is a true story. Before I moved to Nevermore Hollows, there was some tornadoes that went through Alabama when I lived in a town not far from the town I grew up in, Athens. The town that I lived in was called Cleveland, Tennessee. Now, there were these tornadoes that went through Alabama, and they got close to us. We had terrible, terrible storms that night, but we didn't have tornadoes. But the next morning, in my yard, there was debris from a house or houses. There was, some insulation and other things, and there was a checkbook from a house in Alabama. I called the number, and that man's house had been hit by a tornado the night before, and that was his checkbook, and it landed up hundreds of miles away in my yard. So I understand that it is possible that a storm could pick something up and set it down somewhere else. But my question to these science-minded folks are always, why always Winona's? It doesn't make sense that it's a storm somewhere because these things fall out of the sky in front of Winona's. I believe that it's some sort of portal. Now, I don't know where this portal leads. I don't know, what it's pulling, because the things that fall out of the sky there are strange, almost, like the one with the old car, the was a 1957 Chevy Bel Air fell out and there was a skeleton in it. Okay, but nobody knows who the car belongs to. Nobody can track it. It's almost like it's from an alternate reality. And then alligators. There's no alligators in Nevermore Hollows, Georgia. Those are further south in Florida and Louisiana. And we've actually had people fall out of the sky.
But there have been reports of alligators in Nevermore Hollows.
The alligators that are reported in Nevermore Hollows are mutants. Now, just like up until recently, you never heard of them. I don't know where they came from, but they're not full-on straight alligators.
Who would you say is the most famous person to come out of Nevermore Hollows?
The people who come out of Nevermore Hollows that have any type of influence, you wouldn't recognize their name because they move in the shadows. But I can tell you this, there are some very famous people who live in Nevermore Hollows who have supposedly died, but they're still alive. They live in Nevermore Hollows. And I'm about to expose a few of those in some upcoming stories.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. Maybe I'm living next to Elvis.
Well, you got to think bigger and more powerful.
Wow. Now it makes me want to listen to more Nevermore Hollows podcast. There's a rumor that you bought a lot of stock in Jell-O right before Dolly came to town. Is this true?
No, that's not true. That is a bald-faced lie. I can see why people would think that because supposedly, I see things and know things that are happening, and maybe I knew that she was up to something. But no, I could appreciate the question, Darwin, but no. Although maybe I could have made some money if I'd have done it.
Well, Lafayette, I really do appreciate you taking the time to call into the show tonight. And is there anything else that you would like to add that you would like for the people to know?
It's the same message I say every time. Just be vigilant. Know that you are in a spiritual battle. Everything that happens in your life, whether it be good or bad, it's a spiritual battle, so be vigilant. There's always something out there wanting to take a bite of you.
Well said, well said. Well, everybody, this has been Lafayette Faust. I am your host, Darwin Gallows. We'll be opening up the phone lines after this brief message.
Hello, I am Otto Lamentation of the Lamentation Brothers Mortuary. Here, we are a full-service establishment. We have several beautiful viewing rooms, a fully functional kitchen and family area, a large crematory, and a huge variety of containers for the decedent's eternal rest. We will take care of your loved one, whether they like it or not. We have a wonderful fleet of funerary vehicles to provide all your needs. When your loved one is finally laid to rest, we make sure they stay there. Guaranteed.